Rolling up in blacked out cars, talking like they own the stars. Smiling for the camera flash, hands in your pocket, counting cash. Trust us, this time it'll stay. Same old trick in a brand new script. Waving papers, selling hope. Fine print line is a velvet rope. Blue suit, black heart, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Every problem, they've got plans. Step 1, take more from your hands. Step 2, pick a team to blame. Step 3, walk off with the game. Talking justice, talking care, till you ask, hey, why's my street bare? They built mansions on those dreams, then called you cruel when you asked what it meant. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, they love the power more than the people they mark. Raise your hand if you're tired of the show. Same old play in a thrift store coat. They talk like saints, vote like sharks, writing your life with invisible marks. Blue suits, black hearts, saying we feel your pain from the country club bar. Big speed, fake tears. Every 4 years they remember we're here. They're saving the world on a t-shirt sign while they're sipping that vintage red on your dime. Blue suits, black hearts, yeah. The mask falls off when the cameras go dark. Blue suits, black hearts, we're done being
Hey, Boo Boo.
Here
Kurt
we
looks like
are.
he's frozen again. Welcome to California Free Radio. Join us.
Mike Netter here with Scott Piotr. English got a bit of a sinus infection, so good news for the liberals. I'm
Hey,
gonna
Kurt's
talk a
moving again.
little less, but we have a show to go deep a little bit on investigation and a lot going on. And Kurt, I know you had an opening rant on July 4th.
Yes, I'm a
Which
little
I guess we're-
upset. There are some people, Mike, in our country, the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States, that say they're not going to celebrate the 250th anniversary next week of this great country because they hate us. They say there's nothing to be proud of. These are the same people. Some of these liberals have second homes, vacation homes. They have ridiculously high paychecks they get from liberal media outlets. And they are privileged people and elites beyond belief, especially compared to other countries. The state of Mississippi is supposedly the state in America. Mississippi residents live a higher standard of living than the residents of England, the country that established financial systems for hundreds of years. So any liberal that does not want to celebrate our country and its milestone anniversary, get out. I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to be governed by you. I won't allow you to control my life. you have forfeited the privilege of bossing me around and telling me what to do. We should only be governed by people who love this country and love us. And by the way, there are a lot of liberals in us. If you're white, if you're heterosexual, if you're a conservative of any race, if you want to live a normal life, if you want to own guns, they hate you. And always remember that, especially when you vote.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we're going to have a 4th of July special show a week from tonight, now that you mention that. And we're going to celebrate America and the 250th anniversary. Unlike these liberals who want to go cry in their soup. Okay, I have a lot of questions, but one of the things that really bugs me on this thing is that all these liberals sit there and talk about if Trump wins, if the Republicans win, we're going to move out of the country. Well, how come they haven't freaking moved?
I think a
What about the one
couple
with-
of them bragged that they did on social media, but that's like 2% of them.
2%? You mean more like 2 people?
Yeah, like 2 people.
I mean, give me a break. If you're going to sit there and threaten to leave, at least honor your vow and leave.
But
Yeah,
they've been
it's-
doing that
it's-
every time a Republican has won in our adult lives. They say, well, if George H.W. Bush wins, well, if Trump wins, well, if George W. Bush wins, if Reagan wins, and most.
And why is it that almost all of the time when you have local jurisdictions, they outlaw fireworks, at least personal fireworks? Why is it it's always the Dems that are the party poopers that don't want you celebrating with your own personal fireworks?
Oh, I just explained that to one of the neighborhood kids just a little bit ago. Turns out that because they hate our country, they don't want you and I to celebrate either, Scott. And they want to control our
We're not allowed to have
behavior.
fun?
And they want to control our behavior. And they don't want us to have any fun. They actually get joy, some of these crazy liberals, out of us being unhappy because they're such miserable, unhappy people. They want to bring everyone else with them.
That's the only way they can get joy is to see us be miserable too, like they are.
Yes.
Yeah, I choose not to participate in that. Thank you very much.
Well, I sent you guys a little online video of these liberal women that were standing under a waterfall screaming to sort of get that rage out of their systems.
I like these liberals that are protesting the algae out in the reflecting pond in front of the Lincoln Memorial.
You mean the ones that the liberals caused when they sabotaged the work? That algae?
Yeah, exactly. They cut the liner, they put all this crap in there, and then there's algae, and then they have the Save the Algae group protesting there. I mean, really?
Yeah, a lot of these are paid protesters, what Nancy Pelosi used to call AstroTurf.
Oh, that was
I
a
think-
Bill Clinton term.
I think what's interesting when you talk paid protesters, look, it's the idiots. But I think one of the things we need to start addressing is the protesters that are paid. And Newsom's under investigation. We were talking about in our news today, and many of the people around him is you have the right of free speech in America to be an idiot and say what you want with reason. You don't have the right to misuse our taxpayer money and then use it back to fund around. And that's one of the things we're going to get into tonight. Are really deep going into Jennifer Sybil Newsom, who that's on her on the screen.
Well, Mike, you raise a really important issue there. You know, you have these paid protesters. The government is always harassing honest businesses. You say, that person should be an employee and not an independent contractor. Are you withholding taxes? I want to know if those paid protesters have to be employees. Are they getting W-2s? Are they paying both halves of the Social Security and Medicare tax, including the employer half? Inquiring minds want to know, Mike. I think we need to audit all the Soros organizations and make sure they're following our employment laws. What do you think?
What concerns me, the Soros organizations, Kurt, is in California, where the corporations, and this is what the Newsom is about, it's gone beyond just George Soros. We literally health, and where's Bernie Sanders, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, doing these behested payments that Jennifer Sybil go to a charity headed by Jennifer Newsom. And Jennifer Sybil Newsom turns around, makes, shall we say, I'll say almost a pornographic, will we know that's your free speech opinion, and turns around and resells it and profits off of it. I'm not quite sure how that doesn't qualify as money laundering.
Now, Mike, when you say
That's
a
the
behest
part.
payment, can you explain to our audience what a behest payment is?
A behest payment means when I'm elected to state, I can go. Behested payments inherently are not a bad thing. I could go, example, I'll pick on the road behind me because Scott has a picture up and say, look, Amtrak, to donate to charity, let's say, that is called People That Were Born Looking Like Netter, which certainly should be a cause. People that are need to have some kind of special surgery so they don't look like Netter. And so I am able to donate to that charity on their behalf. Now, the problem where that breaks down is this. Those behested payments, although they have to be reported, they're not subject to normal campaign limits. And then what happens is Amtrak comes back and goes, look, we will be happy to contribute $1 million to found charity. Now, you know what? We want you to sign or start a bill that runs the train right. We don't like Kurt. Now, let's pretend I agree to that even for a second, and that passes. Excellent. The problem becomes, okay, is that then in Jennifer Sybil Newsom's case, is the wife of the governor, and had the money.
You sound like a Borg. You're breaking in and out.
Is that
Yeah, stay that distance from the microphone.
okay? So mics are good. So the problem becomes that Jennifer Newsom then turns around, is not only paid, which is legal but questionable, off these behested payments, but she then creates a product, which in this case are films and curriculum, that her husband then signs that forced the schools in the state of California to use this. So the Newsoms are profiting off the behested
You're breaking
payments.
up a lot.
So behested payment is a giving to a charitable organization. You still hear me?
No, we
you're
can hear
breaking
only
up.
every other syllable.
Charitable organization, elected official, in this case.
Yeah, you're not making it. Here, let me see if I can explain it. So you get Newsom, and he gets a behested payment from, let's use PG&E as an example because they're big donors of his, and so he elbows, hey, Mr. PG&E, can you write a check to my wife's charity? And they write a check, and they report it. Newsom reports it. Hey, I asked this guy for a check to the charity, and they wrote it. And that's bad, especially since Sybil Newsom, the first partner, gets an actual paycheck from this charity. And we're talking about $2.1 million type of a paycheck, not just a buck 280. And so this $2 million paycheck is basically coming right out of the bank account of PG&E, and they're trying to get legislation passed by Newsom, and it's basically going into their joint checking account, but it's legal? Are you kidding me? It's legal? And then try your sound now. So the second thing is
Scott, this is
what?
also one of Harvey Weinstein's girls that we're talking about. So we're dealing with the ethical and moral level of a Newsom here and a Weinstein.
Yeah, but you could say that she's a victim of Harvey Weinstein too, that she cooperated for whatever reason.
She was willing to trade what needed to be traded to get what she wanted. It was just a business deal, Scott.
Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Okay. The real thing which the government of California has lost, and a major reason I'm running for state senate, is one word, and that's transparency. We don't know. Now let's go back to Newsom himself for 1 second. Gavin Newsom signed and in fact initiated and insisted on legislation that said if you are going to run for governor of California and be governor, that each year you give to the public your full tax returns so we could see how much Jennifer Sybil Newsom and Gavin is actually making off this escapade. Guess
Wait,
what,
that's
Gavin?
actually state law that they're required to reveal it, or is that just practice?
Nope, they're required to reveal it. Gavin insisted on it. He did it as a way to get back at Trump. It was ruled illegal for federal officials, but everybody, Hilton, Slavitt, anybody who ran for governor is governor is required to issue their tax returns for public knowledge. Newsom finally 3 years behind has issued them. And that's Jennifer Van Laar has written great stories on that in Red State. But the house that he bought, the money, and if you really take a look at the Newsom's lifestyles, Wayne Newsom is quaking in his boots, or should be, about these DOJ investigations, which started under the Biden administration, is because a cursory look at the Newsom's wealth, how much money Gavin pulls in as governor, which is $250,000 a year or so, it doesn't make sense if you do the back of the napkin math, how they pay their bills. He's not an incredibly rich guy. His in-laws have a decent amount of money, but the cash flow doesn't make sense, and Newsom has not abided by it. That has flowed down through the halls of the state senate, that has flowed down through the halls of the state assembly, back to the billion-dollar building that we're building. We have no idea of the new headquarters, how much it costs, who the contractors are. Well, I would say it's a picture of the bullet train behind you, but it looks like a train that runs, Scott. The bullet train contract.
That would be different than the bullet train, Mike.
Correct. So we don't know. The problem is that Newsom, with his hand waving, where these behested payments are just the tip of the iceberg that we know about. We really don't know how much money the Newsoms have made. In fact, we aren't even privy to see a lot of these state contracts. The one to Jennifer Sybil Newsom for these films, which all of us generally disagree with, but let's hold on 1 second. The contract was awarded was done under a no bid scenario by the governor's order to his wife. I'm going to let you guys comment for a second on that one. And tell
that's
me
an obvious conflict of interest where the governor orders his wife in a community property state to get a no bid contract. That's essentially the governor dipping into the state treasury for himself. Obviously.
So let's boil it down really easy for everybody to listen to. It's, if you weren't following everything that Mike was saying, basically, Sybil Newsom has this nonprofit. They develop gender study, gender affirming crap pornographic videos, and then the legislature, with Governor Newsom's signature on it, requires school districts to show videos like this so that young kids with their skulls full of mush are indoctrinated into thinking that same-sex marriage, same-sex relationships, and weird sex is normal. And oh, by the way, Jennifer Newsom's company is the only one that has these videos. So guess what? All these school districts are mandated by Newsom to buy these videos, from Jennifer Newsom's nonprofit. So they're not only getting money on the front end through PG&E, and we use PG&E as an example, but there are many donors that are trying to curry Newsom's favor, and they all donate towards Jennifer Newsom's charity. We don't mean to pick on PG&E. Anybody that wants to do business in California, they have to know which side the bread's buttered on, and that means they write a check to Jennifer Newsom's charity so that she can pull money home and do these videos, which are then mandated by the state to buy from Jennifer Newsom.
And that goes back to Fire Aid that's talked about and got a lot of publicity because, again, this is smash and grab in plain sight. Because Fire Aid was formed like 277 million, like they don't tax us enough, for people to donate to people that have lost their homes. Instead, the Newsoms formed another charity. And that money went into that charity. And
Some of
again,
the money.
some of the money. We don't even know where all the money went. And this is where, even though behested payments are legal, think of them as a way to get around the campaign contribution system with no limits. The way that the money and undue influence is exercised is not. And Susan Crabtree wrote a fantastic article along with the other people from the California Post and the Manhattan Institute that talked about, and we put that in Netter News this morning. Please take a look at that. Newsom has surrounded himself with people that not only have been indicted, but been convicted over the last 10 years. And you are, as I put out on my feed at Netter Mike, the company you keep. And I would say the companies that Newsom is keeping is really the legal mob. And that's why Gavin really should be shaking in his boots. Dana Williamson, and I'll let you guys cover that while I hack off screen, if you will.
So Dana Williams was the chief of staff for Newsom, and she just pled guilty to basically absconding with or money laundering for $250,000 out of Becerra's campaign account, a dormant campaign account. And it was, hey, look, I agree with gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton here, and who should be our next governor? Becerra should be in jail, not on the gubernatorial ballot. Becerra was in on it. He had a chief of staff that he brought to Washington, but he couldn't pay him enough. So they figured out a way to get money out of his dormant campaign account and funnel it to Becerra's chief of staff. And to believe that Becerra didn't know anything about that, I don't care. He can say it all he wants, but when you've got that kind of money sitting in an account, you know what's there and you watch it. He, at the very least, turned a blind eye to what was going on, and he knew what was going on, and he should be in jail for it. So they used this money in this dormant account, paid it to Dana Williamson, figured it out, paid this chief of staff guy's wife a consulting fee, and that was a way to help boost his chief of staff's salary under wraps, or behind under the counter type of thing. Go ahead, Mike. Sorry to steal your thunder.
Everyone out there, okay? Netter News dictates a lot of these people things, again, that you aren't familiar with or have heard about. But go to Grok, go to AI, start posting, and ask Grok and AI what possible scandals could Susan Rubio, who I'm running against, and she's just one member of the state Senate, what possible scandals would Gavin Newsom be being investigated for? And start posting these, because again, they're surrounded by people that know how to manipulate the system, not for 10 or 15,000, but millions and millions and millions of dollars. And we talk about hospice fraud, we talk about all these other things. They're too busy scamming themselves to be watching the other scammers. And we don't have transparency in government, or even folks like myself that are minor government watchdogs have the ability to get to the records. And the state senate, another reason I'm running, I'm going to ask you tonight a couple times, contribute either 10 or 15 bucks to my campaign if you can, because go to netter.vote, because we got to have some people willing to stand up against the machine on both the Republican and the Democratic side to stop this from happening. California is a big state, everybody, and that means by definition, it's a really large pool of money that they have to just take a little off the top, which is a lot. And if you think that how does the government, gentlemen, here's a quick question for you. How does the government not look up an address of a hospice at a taco stand and say, hey, why did we give them $1 million? How can anybody explain that?
Mike, you know the answer. It's
Yeah, I do.
because they're colluding with the fraudulent thieves who are funneling some of that money back into the campaign coffers of Democrat candidates.
Well, and you sit there and you look at
hear no
Newsom,
evil, speak no evil.
this picture of Newsom with Bonta. If Bonta, who is our pretend AG, was doing his job, he would be investigating these things. But not only is he not investigating, he is apparently giving Newsom a pass on all these things, even after they're brought up. And that's why, you also see this picture here, the machine, you got homeless money and public grants go into the machine. The nonprofits take the bags, but the politicians get a piece of that pie. So they're quiet about it. That's why that taco stand got so much money.
So I'm talking to a gentleman this week who runs an X account called the Bonta Files. And right now, I'm going to ask you to follow that account. He's putting out dirt on Bonta every day, some of which many of you heard, many of which you haven't. And again, he runs a site called bontafiles.com. I want you to follow that. Bonta, again, is still running for Attorney General. He's trying to line himself up for governor. And Bonta is supposed to be the top cop, but he's in with the Newsoms. And I'm going to go ahead and share that right now.
So we definitely need to still call Rob Bonta, who's holding up the release of the voter rolls to the Department of Justice. Bonta he's gumming up the works. When you try to get justice, no, he's trying to cause injustice. He is a problem, not the solution. And that site's called the Bonta Files or the X file is x.com/the Bonta Files. But the website is bontafiles.com.
And again,
I'll put that on the scroll below as well.
Yeah, there's again, for all of you out there, if you're tired of getting ripped off, I'm gonna ask you to donate $5-10, something like my campaign. Again, we talk about non-corporate, whatever, but again, much of this is being funded out of small donations. There's a couple donors that I have. But if we don't start taking back seats like the state Senate, paying attention to the Attorney General race, stop shining the light on, and we shining the light a lot on Newsom, but Newsom's not running this time, and Becerra and all the ranting and raving. Donate even to your local Republican Party. Donate to me, $5-10. If you don't get what we're saying here tonight, we are fighting a war against people that have scammed probably close to $1 billion off your tax money, which they're dispersing to get themselves elected, screw up voter registration to get themselves elected, and they're using your money to do it.
Yes, and they're lining their own pockets in the process. Hence, the Newsoms owning a $10 million mansion, where the house payment, if they put it 20% down, would be 45,000 or some odd dollars per month, which he's going to pay for out of his what, $200,000 a year governor's salary.
Not
Right,
exactly. Not exactly.
right. It wouldn't even make the first quarter's payment practically. So yeah, what's wrong with this picture? Why is it that Democrats go into office poor and come out rich, and Republicans go into office rich and come out poor?
I think you know the answer because there's a mass racketeering conspiracy of fraud, whether it's hospice, other healthcare things, and they're importing illegal aliens and undesirable foreigners to run these scams, like from Somalia and Bhutan in Asia. And this is it's an outrageous money laundering scheme, and everyone involved needs to go to jail.
this this picture that I've got from online came from Bonta Files on X, and it's got Mia Bonta, Rob Bonta's Assemblywoman wife, and then Attorney General Bonta in their Lamborghini, purple Lamborghini, no less. Yeah, they're so
Wait a minute. You're saying that
bad.
the attorney general on his salary has a Lamborghini that costs more than his annual salary?
No, I think this is one of the fraud hospice care person's Lamborghini.
Oh,
And Bonta's letting them get away with it, so you may as well put him in the driver's seat.
okay. Fair
You
enough.
can go, anybody can go online at SOS if you know how to use it. And maybe we'll even do that on a future show and see how they spend their campaign donations. Rob
Yeah, so
Bonta,
that's SOS, that's Secretary of State, sos.ca.gov.
and go
Yep.
look at camp donors and campaigns. You could see how much money I've raised. You could see my expenditures. You could see
I
how
would say
Bonta,
see how little money you've raised
how little
because
money
we
I've
need help.
raised. Right. And you could see the Bontas, which is how Ashley Zavada caught them. And you could see Susan Rubio, how they're spending money on lawyers, which they're not supposed to defend themselves against alleged crimes. I mean, a lot of it is in plain sight, but you don't know where to look for it. And then when it comes to the actual government part of it, they've made themselves again opaque, so we can't see it.
Yeah. So what is it that Susan Rubio, the current state senator in the seat that you're running for, what is she allegedly accused of, and why is she spending $500,000 in attorney's fees?
Well, she's not spending $500,000. She's not quite up to Bonta's range yet, but she's opened a political PAC for her defense because she is accused of allegedly, otherwise, why would she need a defense fund? I guess would be the question, of taking a donation, which we call bribes, when she was city council person of Baldwin Park for somebody that wanted to open a pot dispensary. And in fact, the city attorney has pleaded guilty to this. This goes back a few years. It was reported by both the LA Times and Cal Matters last year that probably she is defendant number 19. And she has spent large amounts of money with lawyers. And now, because that's illegal, she's caught on and she's opened her own defense fund that she's asking the public to pitch in on her defense for. Same thing Rob Bonta has done. And you might say she's not as good a scammer, but her office is in his eye. So what do you want, right? So this is a lot in government, and we're just not paying attention to it. And as people like Rubio and Bonta, remember, Bonta moved up from state assembly, Rubio moved up from city council. So it's like La Cosa Nostra. They keep moving up the food chain, okay, and taking with them their scamming skills which is illegal. And these investigations, and I get tired of the partisan BS, were started by the Democrat DOJ. They're being continued for Newsom, for Bonta, for Rubio by the Republican led DOJ. But these were not started Republicans trying to get Democrats. These were started by Department of Justice trying to find people breaking the law, many who did in plain sight, and many of them in California. And the trouble is, like Ridley Thomas, who is now serving time in jail, he committed crime as a county supervisor, then became a Los Angeles City Council member, served for a number of years, stood supposedly for truth and justice, and now he's standing in line for waiting for a meal in prison because he's been convicted. And he's one of the people that is part of Newsom's inner circle. But again,
Hey, I got to tell you, you know, she's showing the miles there. Let me just say, this is a picture of your opponent, Susan Rubio, and I don't know if it's the wear and tear on the legal stuff or just not aging well, but she needs help. We need Mike Netter in there. Come on, guys.
She could afford to get a retread, which we call a facelift, because she's doing it with your money. And the worst part is her sister serves in state assembly. So again, it's family, it's nepotism, it's what we call the Rubio cartel. And I'm going to call out many even of the Republican city council and mayors are afraid to say anything in this area because their cities, and I understand, are doled out money that they need for their budget. But the cartel, and by the way, Rubio's not the only one. There's many of them that simply because the state, and by the way, you know the Nick Shirley law. Gentlemen, talk about that 1 second, right? Where they want to put people in jail for exposing fraud.
Obviously unconstitutional under the First Amendment. Obviously.
You know who one of the writers and sponsors of that bill is, Kurt?
Rubio.
Susan Rubio. One of the writers and sponsors
if you don't want to be embarrassed by having all of this fraud uncovered under your watch, the best thing to do is to make uncovering the fraud illegal.
And by the way, if you want to keep people's eyes off the ball, again, most of us on this show, all of us, let's be realer, are well over 50, in good enough shape to do some damage, and they're letting rapists and murderers, convicted murderers, out of jail, even though they've gotten a life sentence, because, they're going to be too old to do too much damage once they're 50 or 60. Tell that to the survivors of the victim. You know that, right?
Do they get to vote? Is that why they're letting them out?
I think they let them out because they know that they will create more havoc, and they can claim, look, there's havoc being created. But neither here nor there. Guess who one of the sponsors of that bill was?
Let me guess.
Rubio. How easy can we make it? And this may have to do with the fact that, again,
by the way, no relationship to Marco.
No,
yes, no relationship.
Rubio post. It's not about Marco.
Well, hopefully the voters in your district will wake up to this fact. She's a slime. She's interested in only supporting or doing things that help her, not the voters, not the constituents. She is feathering her own nest. And as the feds come closer, which, by the way, this is another one of those investigations, for those of you that doubt it, that were started under the Biden DOJ, not the Trump DOJ. So you have even scumbag Biden's DOJ thinks that she's bad enough that she's warranted an investigation.
And people have, it's alleged still for these officials, but people have pleaded guilty. It's the same as Bonta with the mayor of Oakland is on trial right now for the same, whatever the heck his name is, Ding
His
Dong.
his his buddy, the mayor.
Right. Because they took bribes or donations. Again, it was probably there in plain sight. We didn't know where to look for it. For giving them recycling plants and trash recycling franchises when Banta was an Oakland assembly person. Okay. It just goes on and round and round. And
So
Democrats,
Bonta, you're telling me took trash money, whereas Rubio just took pot money. Is there
correct.
a difference in graduation on slimy politicians getting fraudulent money, getting graft? I mean, these guys are just grifters. They're lining their own freaking pockets, and we, the voters, keep putting them back in. We're stupid. We deserve what we get.
Because we believe they're standing up, or we don't, but some do for the underprivileged. They're not. Money
Yeah, the
doesn't.
thing is, they're standing up for themselves because they think they're underprivileged.
Well, it's a good point, actually.
Well, maybe they're getting a piece of the pie, right?
Yeah, they
Rubio is
don't have
passing
enough
the money
liberal
around.
privilege yet. You've heard of the liberals call it white privilege. I call it liberal privilege.
Yeah, and also even areas in my district like Pomona right now, if you wonder where your crime rate doesn't go down and you don't get the grants that you want, that's because some of your city officials are doing the right thing. It seems some of the city officials that do the wrong thing along the way get rewarded with illegal money. And it's the same story, everyone, that we've
Okay.
seen since the days of Chicago, since we keep seeing it over and over and over again. But now the government of California, led by Susan Rubio in this case, and Scott Wiener even, are putting laws into effect to make it harder for us to know what's going on. It no longer is what are they trying to hide? It's how much are they hiding? That is really what the question needs to be today. Why, as I put in Netter News today, Newsom really ought to be shaking in his boots and taking this seriously, because they go, oh, it's partisan reporting. No, it's reporting at the end of the day.
So we'll come back to Newsom, but I'm bringing up, maybe this is a tangent, but we have a winner in New York. Al Qaeda has won 3 congressional seats. This was an illustration from the Babylon Bee over the 3 wacko Muslim terrorists that won the primaries, Democratic primaries in New York, all of whom were endorsed by Mamdani. So Allahu Akbar. Oh, wait a second, that's the wrong thing. Non-Muslim voters had a number of reasons for being willing to choose a terrorist to represent their once great city. Vote for Al Qaeda. I mean, it wasn't 25 years ago almost where Al Qaeda blew up the World Trade Center. Now New York is electing Al Qaeda. That's pretty sad.
Well, it's even worse, Scott. There's one of these nut jobs that is from Democrat Socialists of America, and that may be a word salad like Kamala Harris to some of you. But this lady got on TV just today and said, we're going to seize the means of production. For those of you not steeped in history, that's what communists do when they confiscate private property, your home, your business. And I've got something to say to these people. We will not live your way. So it's nice that you think you're going to confiscate our property, but what we're really going to do is prevent you from doing it. And if we have to use our friends Smith and Wesson to do it, we didn't fight a revolutionary war so punks like you could take everything we worked for. We will fight you to the death. We will never let you win. We will not let you govern us. We will not follow your illegal laws. So even if you win, all you're going to sign up for is a fight to the death in the Civil War that'll make the one in the 1860s look like a joke. You will never govern us.
And
We
the
won't
problem
allow it.
is, again, when you look at the turnout in New York, like in Los Angeles, these other areas, forgetting even the people that probably shouldn't be voting, okay? Many people don't engage and they don't vote. They won't vote for Al Qaeda, whatever the hell. Even in my district, they might say, okay, I'm not voting for Rubio, but I can't vote for a Republican. So I'm just not going to vote for these offices. I can't vote for Pratt. I can't vote for Bass. I can't vote for Rahman. Look, vote for change because it's not working out, Californians, okay? And New Yorkers, as you can start to see, it's not going to work out for you, but you have to vote for all these offices. The undervote, that's why I say, you know, shout, 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 be loud until we can't be ignored. And we have to stay at constantly, constantly, constantly. I can't stress it enough. I'll be right back, Whack off.
Yeah.
So,
And so we have on
so
Donnie as
Scott,
the lunatic.
so
Yeah.
Scott, there was a school, Chino Hills, that tried to celebrate America's 250th birthday. And some liberal parents got upset because Turning Point USA and Heritage Foundation were providing patriotic items for the celebration.
Like what?
Flags, awful things like flags. It's just outrageous, the nonsense going on in in uh, in some quarters here. Just outrageous.
So they got upset at the school board because
Yeah,
they
they got
had
upset
what?
at the school, and some of them didn't send their kids to school that day. All the liberal propaganda and the ACLU stuff and all that other stuff in schools. So we have something patriotic, and the liberals don't like it.
Yeah, break my heart. I don't care. Ship them all out. Deport them all. De-citizenize. These guys keep saying they're willing to move out of the country. I think we ought to take them up in their offer and ship them out.
I'm good with it. I'm totally good with it.
I'm willing to contribute to a airplane ticket as long as it's a one-way ticket and they have a permanent they'll reside permanently on the do not fly list after that.
So, guys, another big controversy in California centered around the so-called Pride celebrations. There's a lot of stories on this, but to break it down to simple ones.
It is Pride Month,
Well, yeah, I'm very proud of being an American. That's what I'm proud of. But there's nothing to be proud of when you're taking away the rainbow, which was God's covenant to the people back in Genesis, and forcing players to violate their religious beliefs by wearing a major league cap or uniform that represents something you don't agree with. So some protesting major league players put a Bible verse on their cap, and in particular, that Genesis verse that talked about God's covenant with the rainbow. And Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, said, we're going to punish these people. Well, Josh Hawley sent a letter, he's a senator from Missouri, to Manfred, reminding him that religious discrimination is illegal in the United States and he was violating the players' civil rights, and demanded a lot of documents, including all the times that they let the players put BLM stuff on their uniforms in 2020 and all the other political statements that were allowed, but just not Christian statements. Obviously discriminatory. But what's even more concerning is that they didn't understand that they were discriminating against people. America was founded by Christian dissenters. If Major League Baseball or liberals of any kind think that Christians are not going to assert their fundamental rights, they might want to recall that 51 of the 53 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Bible-believing Christians. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to assert our rights, and we're going to sue and sue and sue and sue and sue everyone who tries to take them away, just like they do. And we had Brad Dacus from Pacific Justice Institute on a bit ago, and I'll be on his nationwide video cast on Monday talking about this. But All of a sudden, Major League Baseball backed down, Scott and Mike, and they said there will be no punishment because Josh Hawley threatened to take away Major League Baseball's antitrust exemption on which they make billions of dollars a year. So they're
Man,
happy.
I so much wanted to take away that exemption. Can you imagine a new league starting up, the Banana League or something like that, and going for competition? It'd be great.
But even worse, Scott, after Major League Baseball backed down because they knew they were engaging in illegal activity, a minor league team in York, Pennsylvania, put all this nonsense out, wanted to celebrate things that a lot of people don't agree with. You know, why can't I go to a ball game and just enjoy a ball game without being lectured to, right? And so I want 3 hours off from politics when I go to a sporting event. But so enough players refused to wear the uniforms where they canceled the game and forfeited the game. And they said, we're going to have a celebration anyway. So it shows you the owners are more interested in political propaganda than giving the ticket holders the baseball game they paid for. And Mike had a great suggestion. We need to flood these stadiums with our point of view on shirts and our point of view on caps and fight and stand up for ourselves.
Because this is the problem. A small group, look, any way you define LGBTQFIA, whatever the hell, okay? This isn't about them having rights. It's about groups having outsized rights. And we, being a larger group, just not exercising our rights. Wear a cap, wear a shirt. I was talking to a pastor this week and I go, look, we come to the point where it's like, you could, it's okay. Why do the Muslims get to yell, we're Muslim, and the Christians are afraid to yell, we're Christian? You'd hardly see a Jesus t-shirt anymore, everybody. I'm not saying.
I see him in Orange County. Maybe you don't see him in LA.
No, you don't. And you don't. And by the way, there are 235 million Christians in the United States.
And 3 billion worldwide.
Right. But it's the United States alone. So how is a group that is so large not getting their representation in? Everyone out there again, be too loud to ignore. I'm going to repost again right now the 4 things I talk about before I hack again off the air. We need a cough button like on radio here. But I want to repost again and again. Every day, do something simple. It's easier than ever before. The mainstream press, the NBCs, the ABCs, the Disneys, they're not going to change everybody, okay? They're corporate geeks, and there's a story.
Actually, Mike, they are. Paramount was bought by Larry Ellison's son, and already there have been casualties at Scott Pelley at 60 Minutes.
No. I 100%.
Things are changing.
That things will change, but again, as I bring up, Kurt, we got a bigger reach than most of these stations. You just don't know it. Exercise what you can do. Kurt, by the way, I should have led the show with some very unfortunate news, okay? That my bid for Paramount Warner Brothers of $7 was turned down. So I'm not going to get the chance to buy these stations, okay? And Ellison may sell it to someone else. There's nothing much I could do about that except hope Ellison does the right thing. You all out there need to take the action items that you can take, right? The left doesn't seem to have a problem doing that. Why do we?
That's a good point, that you're trying to make, Mike, is that not only are we in the majority, but we're on the right side of the issue. And yet we're not out there standing up for our values. We're not going out there even voting in significant numbers. The least thing that you could do is vote for like-minded candidates like Mike. And we're not doing that. We're not voting. Sometimes we'll even go out and vote for governor and then not bother to vote for Mike, who's only 2 guys down on the ballot. So,
and Mike, what percentage of people voted in your primary? What percentage of eligible voters voted in the primary? It's
I think you're going to find it's less than 30%.
It's a secret. We can't hear Mike. He's trying to keep it a
And
secret.
yeah, you're still muted, Mike.
There's
Yeah,
about
oh,
a
yeah.
about a 35% turnout overall. There's about a 10% gap, if you will, what's called the undervote for these offices. But by the way, that
So
election
Mike, let's illustrate something to your voters. So if just several thousand, a couple of 10, 20, 30,000 more of those people who didn't bother to vote voted for you, you win.
right in November. I already
Yeah,
won
you
my
win.
way into the primary. Right.
Yeah, you win.
I actually need 40,000 more votes out of 567,000 voters to win. And in the meantime, my point is start reposting, start sending emails to your friends, speak up. You don't have to be a loudmouth expletive deleted like I am necessarily. You don't have to run for office. But I put out on this post, there's 5 simple things you could do every day. Do one of them. Most people out there don't know what the state senate does. They don't know what it means. They know that when so and so got out of jail at 50 years old after murdering 6 people, he went out and maybe murdered somebody they know, and that is pretty upsetting. Why did that happen? That happened because, for example, my opponent put forth the kind of legislation, and then because of the supermajority. And by the way, I want to call out the Republicans for a number here. Are you guys ready?
Sure, I can't wait.
The number is 11. And I did an interview this week, and you might say, what is the number 11? And I want to explain. Since I joined politics back in the recall, back in 2019, if you will, 2020, the Republican Party, thanks to the mechanics of it, not even necessarily the current regime, was told to focus on 11 congressional seats. And most of you out there hear about Congress, you read about it every day. It's what the press doesn't write about. But that number 11, the Republicans of California have been focusing on the wrong 11. Right now, to stop these laws from getting passed, we need to break the supermajority. 4 seats allows you 4 seats in the state senate and a lousy 7 seats in the state assembly. That's it. 11 seats. Instead of all the news being on the 11 congressional seats that could flip either way, 7 assembly seats and 4 state senate seats. If we could flip them, we take away the supermajority in both those houses. And while you all stand up there and I get it, Thune is wrong, we need to pass the SAVE Act. That same system boils down to California. And why the SAVE Act is important, 100%, it's also important that you don't have your house taxed $60,000 to $100,000 when you sell it. It's important that you, your neighbor, or your kids not be killed because a felon is let out of jail. It's important to know how the government is ripping you off spending your money. And you're not going to know unless we take that number 11, 11, 11 to heart. It's 4 state senate seats and 7 state assembly seats.
So that the audience understands what's going on. Supermajority means that the Democrats hold 2/3 or more of each house of the legislature. So bills like this Nick Shirley Act was they called it an urgency ordinance, right? Nick Shirley started to embarrass Democrats, so they created a law outlawing him from exposing this fraud. And it took a 2/3 vote of both houses and the governor's signature, and now is implemented right away. Also, 2/3 are required to raise taxes in the state. So by stopping the supermajority, we stop not every law that goes through, but we stop the egregious ones, especially the ones they want to ram down our throat in a quick manner, like tax increases, or putting things like Nick Shirley in jail for exposing their fraud. It's like, give me a break. I mean, can you be more transparently stupid than these guys? I
Hey
just
guys, a
don't get
little
it.
interruption. Bianca asked a great question. Did she really say, yes, Bianca, her name is Dereliza Avila Chevalier, a Democrat candidate for New York's 13th congressional district? All over Twitter, she posted that she wanted to abolish private property, seize and nationalize major industries, abolish police, abolish prisons, and abolish borders. And now that she is the nominee for the Democrats for Congress, she's managed to delete that Twitter account. How convenient. And
Hold on.
Mamdani, the
Hold
mayor,
on.
was caught
Hold
saying
on.
it
I'm
too.
Kurt. I posted the video today of her saying a lot of those things, and that white people are trash and blah 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 blah.
So
So you
Bianca,
can
you can see that at Netter Mike on X. At Netter Mike is where to find it. Yes, Bianca, it's straight up communism. It's just it is just an attack on our basic way of life and our basic human rights.
So
Mike,
I have
before we go, we got to talk about one other thing in the Los Angeles area that really makes me angry. Santa Monica has had a nutty left-wing city council for at least 40 years, and they have approved some ridiculous environmental study to spend millions of dollars to consider destroying the end of the 10 freeway in Santa Monica that goes to Pacific Coast Highway and get you on Pacific Coast Highway to go to Malibu, because they claim that Hispanic homes were demolished when the freeway was once built. Well, rocket scientists, people's homes of all races get destroyed when a freeway is built that everyone benefits from.
I'm
White,
sorry, I
black,
didn't know houses
Hispanic.
could have a race. How do they know that the houses were Mexican or Hispanic?
They're just claiming it. They make stuff up, Scott. But the point is, some of them want to either close the freeway and put a garden on a park on it, or just tear it down. So that's a complete waste of taxpayer assets. It would increase traffic and decrease economic activity in the area. These people have to be as far away from power as possible.
And
You
by the
know how
way, it's I want to jump in here because I deal with Pasadena Voices. It's a group who've been fighting in reverse and for years when they were going to build the 710 and didn't. Caltrans owned a lot of these houses. Now the state's trying to, it's a complicated story, but exactly to your point, they're trying to turn Pasadena into a traffic mess because they fought and beat building the 710 through. But now, again, real estate developers are making money, but the losers are really what they're doing with the traffic because there's nowhere to put the cars. And we've been doing that for 5 years in Pasadena. Back to you guys. I'm going to let you guys wrap it up
look
tonight.
Well,
look at
but Mike,
how
they
hard a
built
cry
the
that
210
was.
freeway all the way out to the 15. And instead of that alleviating traffic, anybody who is out in the San Gabriel Valley knows this. All it did is make the 210 freeway a lot more crowded.
Yep.
Oh, so we should stop building freeways. I have a
No,
public
we should
service
build more
announcement.
freeways and widen the ones we have.
I have a public service announcement. This week, we had a camper fall into a pit toilet as he was retrieving his sunglasses that fell into the toilet.
We don't know it was the sunglasses. We know it was personal objects.
No, they actually in another article identified it as
Did they
sunglasses.
ID it? Okay.
And you know that reminds me of the story we did last week with this pit toilet, known as the Obama Library. But
So
yeah,
as
the
I put out there, by the way, in this story, if any of you out there think you're having a really bad day, this happened, I believe, on might have been Tuesday or Monday of this week. Imagine a couple things. You were the guy that fell down the pit toilet. Not only that, you fell down the pit toilet, had to be sanitized because apparently you can't get out of these things. By the way, a law I would pass as senator, put a screen over them, but let's just put that down for 1 second or something. But then
I just say,
hold on. Then imagine not only you're the guy that has fallen down that toilet, but it's covered by the news.
yeah, you know,
Got it.
it's
I got you.
like covered by the news. The
Uh,
they actually gave a public warning saying that the pits are designed, of course, not to leak, and so as a result, all of these gases, hydrogen, sulfide, they say people will die in there, and people have died by falling into these pit toilets. So they say whatever you drop in the pit toilet, consider it a donation to the toilet. You're not getting it back.
Well, it's going to dissolve. Well, guys, a couple other good things. We had some good court decisions in the last few days. The Ninth Circuit again blocked California's gender secrecy law, where you can not tell parents about putting a dress on Johnny at school. We won 2 illegal alien cases and a big gun case where the Hawaii gun restrictions were struck down. So we're 4 for 4 here on court decisions.
Yeah. So what happened with the Hawaii case?
They were trying to prevent people from carrying outside their home.
If you
Which
carried
they-
into a public place, you had to get written permission ahead of time. That got shut down.
Oh, from the property owner, you mean?
No, if you had a
Yeah.
concealed carry,
Public.
if you had a concealed carry permit and wanted to carry into a public space, church or school, or a public thing, you had to get written permission before you could bring your concealed carry there.
So even though it was open to the public because it was private property, they tried to make the private property owner the cop to stop you from carrying.
Bottom line is they were trying to restrict gun rights once you had a concealed carry permit. The other big one we're waiting for is what, Kurt? Any day now.
Birthright citizenship.
No, bigger than
10% of births
Dun,
in the United States were birth tourism this year.
what's bigger than that?
That's a pretty big one.
I think to me, the ballots sent and received after Election Day. We're actually waiting on that, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we're waiting on that one too.
So that any ballots that were received after Election Day in the mail or whatever cannot be counted.
Well, more good news, guys. The postmaster appointed by Trump, probably, said he will not deliver ballots to any state that is obstructing access to the voter records, like California. He will not deliver mail-in ballots.
Well, wouldn't that be considered censorship? Doesn't the
No.
Constitution say we're supposed to deliver mail?
No, wait, tell it to the judge. We'll appeal it. We just won't do it. There was a
Yeah,
judge that said Trump can't implement his election security things. A Democrat appointed judge. It's time to go back to Marbury versus Madison, guys, where the Supreme Court usurped the power to interpret the Constitution to itself, in spite of the fact that we have 3 co-equal branches. The executive branch should assert that it has an equal right to interpret the Constitution inside the executive branch.
So
And
the
should say, I'm
Supreme
going to
Court,
ignore your illegal order, and I won't fund the judiciary in the October 1st fiscal year if we don't have reform in the judiciary. I won't fund it. I won't sign the funding bill.
so when you say absconded with the right, usurped it, is that the Supreme Court has basically brought it on themselves that they are the sole arbiter as to what is or isn't.
Well, the
constitutional.
short version is that just before Adams' administration ended and Jefferson came in, and they were on opposite parties, the Federalist and the Democrat Republican, they appointed some judges and delivered them just before the deadline, allegedly. And the Jefferson people refused to allow the judges to be seated or do the administrative things to finish the appointments. The Federalist judges sued. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. And Marshall, who was the Chief Justice and the Federalist, realized politically that he had to let them win, but he did it by usurping power to himself and to the Supreme Court. And so it was a Pyrrhic victory for Jefferson and the Democrat Republicans.
I'll buy that.
Gentlemen,
Don't call me gentlemen.
sorry.
So
My
next
apologies.
week we have our show to honor America.
Isn't it next week,
the
July?
250th
Hold on. You
anniversary.
sure it's next week, guys?
Yeah.
July 2nd is next Thursday, 6:30.
I guess so.
Do you need
It
a
is.
calendar?
And aren't you guys tired of liberal municipalities that tell you can't have fireworks? You can't have fireworks. You know what John Adams said? He said to celebrate the 4th of July with guns and pyrotechnics and cannons and festivities.
Sounds
So
like a
that's what we're
great
gonna do.
idea to me.
That's what
Burn
we're gonna
things
do.
up, blow things up. Sounds like a great
Yeah.
way to end the show. All right,
Amen.
guys. We're talking California Free Radio behind the blue curtain, bringing you what's going on in the state of California. See you next week.
See y'all next week. Hit it.
They said trust the experts while they locked up the town. Gave us 12 more genders. Took our paychecks down. Flag on the porch. They call you extreme while they cash big checks and scream on your screen. Tear up the script like it's 1776. Hey, hey! They're allergic to bricks and sticks. All bark, blue check, big talk, no grit. We the ones they